and get up on the screen here. So hello, hello. Let's see, I'm gonna watch it on the other screen so I can see who's joining me here, so I can give you a big shout out. So bear with me for 1 second. I'm just figuring out some of this technology here. Okay, so you guys have a slight delay. I see that. Welcome. All right, so I'm in the studio at the ministry, and I'm gonna go over a presentation tonight, and I'm gonna talk about the big ideas in the grand scheme of things with the Luxor transformation. And you know, if you want a copy of that new audio book, I just put it up on YouTube, and you can also get it. Text the word book AU to 608-530-6658, and that will go ahead and give it to you. So let's see here. Yeah, see right there on the bottom of the screen, you can text the book AU to there, and you can get that. And once again, don't forget to, you know, check out the 3-2-1 prosperity formula at MatthewDavidHurtado.com, because it sort of encapsulates this whole big idea that we're going to talk about tonight. So the way that I've launched my material, it's almost like backwards, but you know, authority flows backwards, so it makes sense, because what I did is I released a lot of the techniques in the beginning of the ministry, and then I'm like delving backwards and digging up unturned stones and showing where all this comes together and putting together pieces, but I'm also uncovering new material. So I think you'll find some insights tonight. So I'm going to get started, and we'll get rocking and rolling here. Let's get some of this off the screen. And I have my friend here, Mr. Matthew Sanders. He's working out here with some of the cryptocurrency trading and getting ready to launch some big things coming up. Heading out to Puerto Rico soon to do a lot of that. So that's exciting. Lots of good things, lots of interesting times that we're in. And as you know, you saw Donald Trump tweet the other day that he is not a fan of Bitcoin, but historically, what I know to be true is every time someone in that position says something, they usually do the opposite. So just a little word of advice that I'm saying is that look for the opposite to happen. So what do you guys say we get to the transmission and we go through it, because I got quite a bit to share. And before I do, remember that the final workshop for 2019 is coming up on the 25th, 26th, 27th, 28th in Milwaukee, Wisconsin at the, I think it's, Sabrina will put it up in the message box. But you can go to allowuniversity.com, or you can give us a call at 888-550-8231. You know, if you want to get the ultimate training to get your vibration in alignment, come to the workshop at least once in this lifetime and get the self-entrainment technique. And if you've been to the workshop, use the self-entrainment technique, because everything I'm going to explain to you now is really about why you'd want to do that, why you'd want to learn how to lock in physiology, why you'd want to learn how to master this skill. So I'm going to get into it, and then everything will come together. So let me get this up on the screen right here. We're going to go through these notes tonight, and let me know you can hear me out here. So I'm back up here, but you guys got to be able to hear me. So let me see if I can fix this. Okay, you can hear me now. I bet you can hear me now. I think I got it fixed up. So if you can hear me now, just say, yep, I can hear you. All right. Let me see who's out there. I'm going to say hi to you guys. I can't see you in this. Okay, you can hear me now. I bet you can hear me now. Oh, yeah, I can hear it. Now we're on. Now we got some business going here. So Michael, we got Brian, we got Bobby, we got Tajal, Beverly, Craig, Gene, Brian's here, Randy. All right. Okay, good. Well, let's get into the material and let's just fly through this and let's capture some new ideas, because these ideas are what are going to transform some things for you. So your E-motives is what I call it. God sees the heart. 1 Samuel 16, verse 7, but the Lord said to Samuel, do not consider his appearance or his height, for I have rejected him. The Lord does not look at the things people look at. People look at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. So we know that the issues of life come out of the heart. And so when we're looking at this framework, we're looking at what that means. So the best example I can give you of how this works is when I was younger, I used to have an eating disorder. I had bulimia and anorexia. You know, I'm a male. It's kind of embarrassing. When I was age 19 through age 24, five years, I had an eating disorder. And what I used to do is, you can see the screen, you see the head right here? I used to come up inside the head and I'd always try to figure out, you know, how do I get out of this? What do I do? How do I change everything? Well, that never worked. Okay, reasoning never worked. But what I did differently one time is, this is when I discovered what I teach with the Luxor training, is I stumbled upon something that allowed me to break free within 24 hours. So 5.5 years of struggling with this thing, 5.5 years of every day being a damn nightmare of counting calories, binging, purging, starving, laxatives, you know, all of this mental emotional chaos, ruining my life. And then in the twinkling of an eye, it's gone. How in the heck did that happen? Well, I'm going to tell you what I did. And then I'm going to explain to you again how the Luxor process works. And then some of the knowledge behind it. So the last time it happened, I was New Year's Eve at my girlfriend Elizabeth's house. She was before Sabrina. So her mom had let me stay there. So I lived in the basement of her house. I wasn't very prosperous back then. I hadn't yet fully committed to God. I didn't tithe. I didn't have any of that working for me. So I was at New Year's Eve. I had a couple drinks, and that was a trigger. Again, I talk about triggers in the Luxor training. If you know the training, you know what I'm talking about. I had a schism show up. And so that schism showed up, and I went off into what I used to call an emotional hijacking. And, you know, at that point, it's a level of deep unconsciousness where I started just, you know, looking for food. I started looking for the solution. And so I started eating, and I started eating some more and more and more and more, and drinking more and more and more, with full intention that I was going to go head to the bathroom and I was going to throw it up. Because that is what you do when you have bulimia, is you binge and you purge. And then you starve, and then you binge, repeat, and you just, it's a cycle to escape when you're in the mind. So what I did differently, though, is I had this moment of insight, and I was listening to Deepak Chopra's Everyday Immortality, and I was gaining an understanding that God was the space between all things, the space between thoughts. And I was really starting to spend time in that space. So you could say that I was in the presence of God. I was in the presence of now. I was recognizing that in a now, things were a little bit different than when I was always in my head chatter. And when I was in now space, the reality of my knowledge was in my heart. It was what I felt with my emotions. That was my reality. I felt it now. And so I carried that stillness that I was learning by spending time in the gap, the space between all things, all sounds. And I brought that still, quiet attention, pure awareness, during the final episode when I started eating and drinking. I was watching myself with like a curiosity. Now get this, I had a curiosity that removed all judgments. So what I did was I said, you know, this is a phenomenon. It doesn't have any meaning. It's not a condition. It's a phenomenon that's occurring out of this moment. I witnessed my emotional state, what I call one of the two things in this emotive formula, your emotional frequency, your emotional resonant frequency. I witnessed my emotional frequency, and I witnessed my behavior, my thinking. So you could almost say I dissociated from the whole scene, like I stepped out of my body and watched myself as a quiet observer go through the motions. And as I witnessed myself do this, God's law of adjustment, God's kingdom of peace, get this, God's kingdom of peace brought annihilation and destruction to all of the ignorance that was coming in my now. And the next morning I woke up. I felt different. Something was changed. Something was transformed. Well, it was a few days later, and things were very different. I didn't have any urges to binge. 3 weeks later, I had or one temptation. These schisms, the schism disappeared. The schism was gone. How did I do that? I just explained it to you. You see, what I discovered, and now I have the language interface with the bodies, and I can match it all up, and I can put it all together in this puzzle of knowledge, and I can explain to you exactly what happened. So whatever's going on in your life, I want to show you what to do about it. And Luxor training, in my opinion, is the answer. It's the highest level of transformation I've discovered in terms of how to do nothing and accomplish everything. So what we have in language is we have an adverb verb. Whoopsie. We have an adverb verb situation on the planet, and that is double speak. And so what we're doing is, you see the bodies, logoic, monadic, we're going oneness and duality, oneness and duality. And so we're speaking in a double speak, and that creates, this, then we have an adjective before the pronoun, a 3-4 dance, a 1-2 or a 3-4, and that's a modifier of a fact. And so what happens is now you have the coloring of the law, and that coloring of the law is what they call a hue-man. Hue means coloring, and man manifests. So you're coloring the law of God with human reasoning. Make sense? Very simple. So what happens is the intelligence of the manifest or the human is atmic, and that's polarized in the negative. It's a negative condition of state. That's why thou shalt not. Don't do that. Stay away from that. How many times did you hear the word no before you turned into becoming an adulterated version of yourself? You lost your ether. I'm going to just give it to you plain and simple. You lost your ether. They broke your ether. That's what happened. And they took you out of the zero. And so what the Luxor transformation does, according to quantum physics and alchemy that I've learned from someone named Clem out in South Africa, is when this happens to you, when these schisms come, you break your ether, and you're falling out of your now, and you're losing your zero, okay? Now your zero, look, is a conjunction. According to David Miller, his language, that's an and or, it's a neutral position. So the zero is also infinite, and the one is the one. So you have the infinite one, okay? God is the infinite one. So the infinite is the zero. And now again, that's neutral. So what you're doing is you're transposing a state of neutrality over your schism by just being pure awareness. No judgment, no reasoning, just purely observing with a curious fascination and removing the meaning. You have to remove the meaning because the judgment is come back upon you. So when we cease judging, we stop fearing. The 5 steps of sin consciousness are fear, confusion, lack of trust, double-mindedness, and division. I repeat, when we cease judging, we cease from fearing. What you fear has come upon you. Whatever you are witnessing, see, man is living in an upside-down state of reality through human reasoning, and man believes that his thought is his God. And so he lives up here in his head, and the head is a labyrinth. Your labyrinth of your mind captures you in reasoning, which means the descendant of a guilty mind, through the 666, the fall of man, through the who, what, when, where, why, and how, through your 3 kingdoms. You are bound and ensnared by the lies and deceit of the trickery on this planet because it's all programmed in a corrupted language. And corrupted language is corrupted software. So you're corrupted from the beginning. And isn't that what it says? That Satan was a liar from the beginning? Well, human reasoning is synonymous with that liar from the beginning. Now, the truth is in the heart of the man. So the truth of being is in the heart. So what we want to do to transform ourselves is we want to move down from the head space into the heart space, into the now space jurisdiction, and become aware of what's happening in our emotional frequency, because that's what's setting up the magnetic field. You see, when Clem told me you broke your ether, that's your etheric state. Now, the 1 becomes the 3 becomes the 4. So the Father, right here, the Father is the 1 becomes the 3. So what happens is you have your top 3 chakras. Your top 3 chakras are your etheric, your emotional state. So the power comes into the emotions first, in the now. And then out of that emotional frequency, it creates this magnetic field that draws in matter in what you translate by your 5 senses as your reality. And that's your bottom 4 chakras, and that is your elemental state. Okay? So the 1 becomes the 3 becomes the 4. And that is the order of operation. So if you want to do things properly, then we have to understand cause and effect. And causality is not thought. Cause is vibration, emotional frequency. Effect is the thought kingdom that matches that emotional frequency. Thoughts are coming from a kingdom outside of you, like radio signals you're tuning into. You never had an original thought in your life. So to believe that your thoughts are privately owned in your head is true error and deceitfulness. So here's how we dance. The Father's will is divine love. It's a gravitational field, a pressure of constant force, constantly. And then we have energy, thinking. We have mass, knowledge through our 5 senses. Thought capacity and knowledge, verb of moving the thinking. And then we have to make a claim, a method of a fact, choice selection with the knowledge. Then 7 and 8, method of a meaning, term with a claim, and authorization by an author. So when we look at your situations in life, your knowledge capacity and your frequency are what I call your E-motives. Well, who's the author of everything that happened to you? God. God's the author. There is no other, period. Perception, a meaning. Again, when I was the still space, watching the last episode, when I had a binge and purge episode on that New Year's Eve night back in 2001 or 2002, 2000, something like that. And what happened was I recognized that God was the only power, presence, and mind, the still space between all things. And so I submitted to that still space, and I observed with a curiosity. So essentially, I took the perception and the meaning and I stripped it from it, and I removed the judgment, and that removing of judgments or meaning of circumstances, keeping it in the neutral. Again, the zero is neutral. So I was transposing the neutral, the zero. And when you multiply, get this, you saw me do this in the name the fear process. When you multiply anything by zero, what do you get? You get zero. So when you bring a neutral attitude or a neutral state of being, no meaning, zero, right? It has zero meaning, zero judgment, zero importance. It's just phenomenon. And you're purely witnessing as the silent observer. What you're doing is you're multiplying that into the zero, and it becomes the zero. It's mathematics. Reality is a mathematical equation. So we make a claim in our heart. Our heart is how we make a claim, and it happens now. You cannot make a claim in the past or future. You don't have access to those. Those are fiction. The language gets you to think that way. You think in a week something's going to happen. You think in 2 weeks something may happen, right? No, it happens now. In fact, when you really understand this technology and then you go and listen to some of the people who are the most successful, you hear it with a new set of ears. You're awake for the first time in your life. When you realize that everything must happen in the now, where the emotional frequency is transmitting in the present moment, that is your true capacity. Your true capacitor, your capacity is your emotional frequency, because that is the cause. That's what brings the effect of the thought and gives it the charge to create the particle wave duality that you experience with your five senses. So we make a claim through our emotions. Now, here's an example. I listened to Kenneth Copeland, who is one of the wealthiest ministers on the planet. I don't care what your opinion is about him, to be honest with you. I admire Kenneth Copeland because he demonstrates the prosperity of God on all levels. And when he speaks, I have cognition of what he's saying because I can see the methodology. And he said today, when I listened to his transmission, he said there was, he says, if you want to be free of debt, stop saying you're going to be free of debt. You're on your way to being free of debt. He says, you're free now. Believe it in your heart now. Believe it in your heart now. Do you see what he's saying? He's saying, stop creating time and space. Recognize that the things of life are coming out of the heart as your emotional frequency now. You claim it with your emotions. End of discussion. Now, thinking, your desire list. We created that in our books, our playbooks. I show you how to increase your awareness, your capacity for receiving by using that playbook, creating daily habits. Your thought capacity, okay, is really mostly coming from your heart. So the knowledge that reaches your sense projection, and then we have the energy, the attitude towards life, and the gravity, the resonant frequency. These are all the mechanics of it. So this 5, 6, 7 dance, when we look at language, again, this is the correct communications, parse, syntax, grammar, language interface, and we're looking at the dance of the 5, 6, 7. We have position, and then you have, position, loadial fact, or you have preposition, article, noun, whatever, pronoun, whatever you want to call it. What you have is the position is the quality for the assignment of the authority with the article, and that body that corresponds with that is your mental. That's your mental body. So the is and the are is the thinking motion for the capacity of the knowledge. So the 6 is the article must always precede the noun or the fact. Now that is your astral body. So your astral body is your emotional body. So your emotional body must always precede the fact. So your witnessing of the facts is the level of cause in a proper sentence structure. Your witnessing of the facts Okay, let's see, I have this right. Where did I put it? I have it down here, right here. See the cause, your witnessing fact, your learning fact, your closure fact. This is how you write a proper sentence in the quantum grammar. For the cause of the consequences is, or is with the possessive by an authority. So this is actually a little bit out of alignment. So this is supposed to be for the cause of the consequences is with the possessive by the authority. So it's a little out of step here. So the person that designed this didn't really get it right, but for your knowledge, it's for the cause, your witnessing fact, your learning fact. Well, the only thing you can witness as a fact is what's happening right now. Everything else is opinion. Anything outside of right now is an opinion. So if you break reality down to the very singular moment of right now, like a metronome, right now, right now, right now, right now, right now, between the thoughts, if you are in the space between the thoughts, in the now, the only witnessing fact is pure awareness, and that's it. And you put that on your emotions, because your emotions happen in the now. Your emotional triggers are actually blessings in disguise. How you're being triggered is how your blessing is being obstructed through a judgment that was made in your circuitry. So the universal expression of more increased goodness that's seeking more expression through you is being obstructed, and that schism is a trauma state. All you have to do is bring the zero to it, and anything multiplied into the zero becomes the zero. So you remove the schism and you transmutate it into pure awareness, and you open the circuits back up. So that is the short of this. So again, we can talk about this more and more, but I just really want to make it very, very, very simple for you. So the process, and I recommend you take the process and you do the Luxor training if you can. If you don't have any interest in it, then you're probably not watching this video anyway. But if this excites you and this is something that you feel has some validity in your, your awareness, let me get myself back up on the screen here. Okay, then it's worth doing it in application. Okay, application is everything. Okay, they say knowledge without action is really nothing. So do the Luxor training if you can. Use the playbook. Take advantage of this. And if you're serious, if you really want to go all the way, then come to the workshop. It's happening on the 25th, 26th, 27th, 28th of this month. I know it's short notice, but Sabrina is on standby, ready to work with you, ready to get you here. I really want to give you 100. I want to give you 100% of everything I got. I know I stumbled onto some amazing things. I was using this playbook, and I demonstrated the demonstrations I've made using the tools now, as opposed to a year ago, are quantum leaps. With this knowledge, the quantum leap is there. And when you put it all together, self-entrainment, ABC break, safe touch, make it an elegant, streamlined daily habit routine, knowing the knowledge of this Luxor, how it all plays out, I have just witnessed incredible things. I want to give you that for the rest of your life. I really do. And if you can't make it, you can't make it. I totally understand. But if you can, I really feel it's one of the best investments you can make in this lifetime is in yourself, in wisdom. Because wisdom is the principal thing. Wisdom brings honor and riches. Okay? So, enough said about that. Now, will the workshop be available online? Yes, it will. It probably will not have the same effect, just to be honest with you, because we have a collective morphic field we create in the room, and that brings a lot more substance to everything. It's very, very powerful to be around like minds and grouping people together that are very, highly attuned, that are in this direction. With that said, the workshop will most likely be available around, November, December. I'll put it up online coming up for the holidays maybe. And that's the time that I'll be heading out to Puerto Rico, and we'll be starting things out there. So this will be a good time to put everything online and have it available. So with that said, does anybody have any questions? Do you want anything cleaned up while I'm still here before I sign off? If you want anything cleaned up, just put it up on the board and do it quick, and I'll get to it right away so I can start addressing things. And I'm going to look at my screen here and see what some of the comments have been. So let's see. Well, it's good to see you guys here, Tom. We got Dimitri, we got Randy, we got Jean, Nessa, Tony, Bruce, Marisol, Sabrina, Andrea. You guys are new adding on here. Tracy, Mary, Angel, Casey, Abel, Tyrus, Kalisa. Wow, so cool to see all you guys here. I just love this community. I love the community. I love what everybody brings to this. You guys are awesome. So is the devil real? That's a question. Well, look at what the devil is. Look at the word evil. It's live in reverse. So what does it look like? It means that you're living in reverse. It means you're in the ignorance. You're in the superstition of materialism. You know, Romans 8. Just read Romans 8. Understand the law of sin and death. The law of sin and death is the so-called jurisdiction of the devil. That means that you are living in a mortal consciousness. And what you've done in order to create this so-called devil is you have a belief in two powers, broke the first and second commandment. God is, and outside of God, there is no other. So if you believe there is another power, then you are, double-minded to begin with. Now, if you believe that, well, you put up graven images after that. You put up thoughts of fear, and then you start to step into the jurisdiction of fear. So fear is a liar. Fear activates the enemy. I repeat, fear is a liar. Fear activates the enemy. Now, I'm going to close with something really cool. You have a quantum peace contract with God. This is the end-all, be-all of this whole Luxor training that I want to give to you. God has a contract with you. Everything in the universe operates on contracts. God wants to give you all good things. God's good pleasure is to give you the kingdom. It says right in the word. Now, to be in honor with God brings favor from God, and to dishonor God brings loss. So to dishonor a contract is a breach of agreement. That means that the performance that was guaranteed is no longer in effect. So if you breach a contract, then your promises are no longer promised. You broke the contract. So what contract do you have? It's so simple that you probably will never believe this, but all you have to do is hold your peace, and be in harmony with the world around you. Hold your peace. When you are tempted to be afraid, no matter what it looks like, no matter what it feels like, no matter what, hold your peace, because that is the trust in one power that activates the faith that creates the divine bridge to the incorruptible nature of true reality. And that peaceful awareness, non-judgment, non-reason, strip it of its power. And what you do is you bring God's kingdom, and that law is annihilation to anything that is error. And that is the holy grail of simplicity. It's simple. It's utterly simple. It's so simple. So the next time something triggers you, use the Luxor transformation. You'll dissolve your schism back into the zero, and it will become the zero. It's mathematics. It can't fail. Mathematics does not fail. Pure awareness transmutates everything into pure awareness. Then hold your peace. When you hold your peace, God fights your battles. The opposite of that is getting into fear, which is sin consciousness. So the whole game is to refuse to fear, hold your peace, praise God. It's so simple. And follow the 3-2-1. If you really want to ignite things, you learn how to live by a seed principle. So the 3-2-1 incorporates this. The seed principle. So what I sow is what I reap. Your vibrational set point is the quality of the seed you're sowing. Your knowledge is the form and fashion, but it must be given a charge. It must be given its frequency that it's going to present itself as. So when you're in peace, you demonstrate the kingdom of God. God's kingdom brings annihilation to anything unlike itself. It's the same thing as if you're trying to figure out a math equation, you're using all the wrong formulas, and then someone comes along and shows you the correct formula. That correct formula brings annihilation to all of the mistakes that were made. That's what this works like. It's a perfect formula. So in the 3-2-1, I talk about the tithe, honor to God, giving up man's kingdom for God's kingdom. Best decision I ever made in my life. Best return of investment I ever made in my life. Then I talk about the non-judgment, number 2. Well, we've been talking about non-judgment the whole time. So you could say the Luxor training is sort of slipping into the gap of that number 2 in the 3-2-1 process and bringing a high level of efficiency to that. It's really bringing that to the next level. And then in the number 1, which we work on in the playbook, is what is the fastest path to your joy in this moment? Following your joy in every moment. What's your highest excitement in this now? Taking that action to the best of your ability. Rinsing and repeating. Because when you do that, you're demonstrating a high level of trust that you believe God's going to support you by choosing your highest path. It takes trust and faith to do that. And when you use your faith, you demonstrate a miracle. When you use your reasoning, you demonstrate dishonor to God, unless your reasoning is in alignment with the Word of God. Very simple, isn't it? Now, here's what I'd like for you to do. I would like you to try this for just like 48 hours. For 48 hours, I would like you to try that no matter what happens to you, no matter who cuts you off in traffic, no matter what bill shows up in the mail, no matter what that person says to you that makes you feel bad inside, no matter what your body screams at you, no matter what happens, hold your peace. Just remain calm and relaxed, and just be curious about observing it without any judgment whatsoever, with a recognition or a cognition that only God is real. God's the only power here. God's the only mind here. God's the only fact. Anything else is an opinion or a lie, and God is the good in my life that's always blessing me, always increasing me, always unfailing love, holding me in perfection. That's your knowledge capacity, and that's your resonant frequency. Watch your life transform. Just watch your problem get sick of you and leave. Your problem's going to get sick of you and leave. It's going to be gone. So that's what I would recommend. If you really want to see some magic, then start unleashing that magic within yourself right now, because you have that power. All right, guys. Well, we are getting so close to the workshop that, you know, I may have Sabrina jump on and do some ministering for you in a few days. And I may or may not be on next Sunday because, in fact, I probably won't, because I'm going to be heading back to Spring Green to do some last minute business before we finally close out in that area. And then the following week, I'm going to be at the workshop. So, you know, if you want to really come into this thing full steam, then do the Luxor training. You know, do the free part first, Luxor, LUXUR.space. Devour that. Get excited about it, because it's going to bring a new level of comprehension into your awareness. And you can never unknow something that you know. You can never unknow it. It'll be with you. It'll inherently organize itself and express itself on its own nature. And, you know, then do the 4-week, you know, get the playbook, or better yet, if you can afford it, come to the workshop and come meet people like you and sync with people that are going to help you go to the next level and come and master these techniques, learn the self-entrainment technique and use it. You know, the self-entrainment technique, the reason why I don't want to share it online is A, it's not the same. I can't offer to you in the same capacity as I can in person. It's a physical thing. You have to do something. And I want to stress the importance of it by holding it back. It's the only thing I hold back, really. I give everything else out. I mean, I hold this back because this is my special thing. Because when I use it, and when I use it right, it's the most powerful thing I've ever discovered when it's done. Now, the trick here is that when you're not in the vibrational frequency and you're attracting the thoughts that are in a state that you don't like, you're attracting thoughts that match that state, you get caught in the labyrinth. And that labyrinth doesn't want you to use the self-entrainment technique. That's when you actually have to do it. You have to do it when you don't want to do it. And then all of a sudden you shift your vibration, and all of a sudden you wake up and you're just like in a whole new quantum reality. It happens every time for me. And that's been going on for years. So, yeah, enough said about that. All right, guys. Love you guys. Thank you for being here. It's so nice to see all these names on the board. You know, I see Julian joined us. Let's see, anybody else came on here. Yep, I got the rest of you guys. VC James is here. So good to see all you guys, honestly. If I don't see you before, I will definitely see you after the workshop. You know, I released Luxor strategically right before the workshop because for those of you who can't make it, I wanted to give you like an alternative, you know, the free part and the 4-week course, because if you start doing something and getting serious about this and just really just using it, you have to use this stuff. You can't think about it. Stop thinking. Just start doing. Just start doing. Do it. Just do it. Just do it. Dan Pena says, just effing do it. I think that's even better. All right, guys. Love you, and God bless. I'm going to get off here. If I don't see you before, see you after the workshop. Or better yet, I'll see you at the workshop in person so I can shake your hand, give you a hug, teach you the self-entrainment technique, and you know, give you every trick I have up my sleeve so you can ride this rest of your 2019 out. And by the way, if you think you have all the tricks up your sleeve that I've got to give you, you don't have all of them yet. So if you're returning to the workshop, you're in luck, because I've got more. I've always got more. So it's definitely worth your time to return. Come see your friends. Come see the new stuff and tear it up, because you guys are going to crush it this year. Take care.